My name's Graham Smith, and I'm a Senior Advisor in the Cabinet of the European Ombudsman, Emily O'Reilly. The Office of European Ombudsman was first established under the Maastricht Treaty of 1992. It exists to tackle maladministration in EU institutions and agencies. We do this mostly by inquiring into complaints received from EU citizens, businesses, and civil society organisations. But the Ombudsman also has powers of own initiative to investigate systemic or wider public interest concerns which come to her attention. Emily O'Reilly was elected European Ombudsman for a second full mandate by the European Parliament in 2019. Since she first took office in 2013, much of her work has been aimed at increasing transparency of EU decision-making processes, enabling greater citizen participation in decision-making, and in addressing apparent conflicts of interest in EU affairs. I've been asked today to talk about the scope of the Ombudsman's powers. Ombudsman powers are often described as soft powers because their decisions are not legally binding. Following a finding of maladministration, the European Ombudsman may make a recommendation to the institution or agency concerned. This may be with the EU providing a remedy for a past mistake, or, more usually, taking action to ensure that systems are improved in order to avoid such mistakes in the future. As an independent advocate for good practice within the EU institutional landscape, the European Ombudsman is well placed to uphold European values and draw attention to issues impacting on citizens and democracy throughout the EU. Although the Ombudsman has no specific mandate in relation to human rights, many of the complaints she receives touch upon the human rights of EU citizens. The EU Charter of Fundamental Rights includes the citizen's right to good administration and the right of public access to documents, both central to the European Ombudsman's work. Indeed, the Charter also gives citizens the right to complain to the European Ombudsman. Nevertheless, it's not surprising that those bringing complaints are often unclear as to who it is they should be complaining to. At EU level, there are a number of other oversight bodies, including the European Court of Auditors and the European Data Protection Supervisor. There are also investigatory bodies for fraud and crime, and the new Office of the European Public Prosecutor. Citizens cannot be expected to know the precise remit of each of these, so there's often a need for liaison between them and for signposting to direct the citizen to the right body. It's also in the clear interests of citizens that there is effective liaison between the European Ombudsman and national ombudsmen in the Member States. The European Ombudsman coordinates the European Network of Ombudsmen, whose members include Member States Ombudsmen at national and regional level, as well as ombudsmen from the accession states and other neighbouring countries. Many ombudsmen face similar issues in handling citizens' complaints against their governments and in exploring ways to improve public services. The European Network offers a forum for sharing knowledge and experience and can be a powerful voice in speaking up for citizens who face challenges to their democratic rights. In the current COVID-19 pandemic crisis, the European Ombudsman has been particularly active in liaising with national ombudsmen to ensure solidarity and mutual support. Citizens need to know that there are independent actors protecting their interests in these particularly challenging times. While the need for emergency action is clearly understood and acknowledged, the measures taken by some governments in assuming additional powers without the usual checks and balances that feature in a mature democracy does raise concerns. There is an obvious legitimate need for strong action to control the spread of the virus and to limit its human and economic impact. However, it's important that the exercise of emergency powers is transparent and subject to proper scrutiny by the public and their elected representatives. Democratic rights and the rule of law are threatened if emergency powers are used disproportionately for purposes other than those which they were originally intended for, or for longer than is strictly necessary. Transparency in the adoption of such measures, in the use of such measures, and in the review of such measures is vital. Independent supervisory bodies such as Ombudsman and human rights institutions have a key role in ensuring that democratic standards are maintained and that citizens' rights are protected. It is inevitable that in a situation which is so threatening to human health and economic well-being, that the focus of citizens is on their immediate needs and their immediate environment. We see different approaches being taken at national and regional level in terms of lockdown measures and exit strategies. We have seen a my country comes first approach to the procurement of medical equipment and supplies. However, the virus is no respecter of national borders, and transnational solutions will be needed to sustain the fight against this common but largely unknown and unseen enemy. At times of crisis in particular, citizens need the open communication of reliable information. They need their governments to be transparent and open to scrutiny by citizens and civil society. Ombudsmen and other supervisory institutions support citizens and civil society in performing that role, and Emily O'Reilly, as European Ombudsman, stands ready to continue to fulfil her mandate in support of democratic and human rights in the post-COVID world, in the interests of all European citizens. Thank you.